He raped her. He filmed it. He blackmailed her.
Sean Diddy Combs has arrived in court for opening statements ahead of his trial in New York. He's been in custody since September and faces charges of racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution.
And for years, no one stopped him. These aren't tabloid headlines. They're sworn testimony in a federal courtroom. What Cassie Ventura revealed over 3 harrowing days of testimony is a pattern of violence, exploitation, and manipulation that could finally bring down one of hip-hop's biggest icons, Sean Diddy Combs. This is not just a story of survival. This is the breakdown of every crime Diddy is now facing in court, and why justice may finally catch up to him. 1. The power dynamic, how it started. Cassie met Diddy when she was just 19, a new talent, signed to Bad Boy Records. He was nearly 2 decades older and one of the most powerful men in the music industry. What started as a mentorship quickly turned into a romantic relationship. But behind the glamorous public appearances, Cassie says Diddy slowly took over every aspect of her life. He decided what she wore, where she lived, who she could talk to, and even how she styled her nails. He took control of her bank accounts, her music, and her schedule. What seemed like lavish gifts, trips, clothes, recording time, were ultimately tools of total control. By the time she realized the depth of his manipulation, she was already isolated, dependent, and trapped. 2. Domestic violence, the brutality behind closed doors. Cassie testified that the abuse began early and never truly stopped. She spoke about being slapped, punched, dragged by her hair, stomped on, and left with visible injuries. On multiple occasions, she appeared in public wearing sunglasses to hide bruises and swelling. In one chilling case, she sent Diddy a photo of a cut on her face after he slammed her onto a bed frame, writing, "I want you to remember what you did to me." Hotel security officer Israel Flores recounted seeing her crouched in a corner, terrified, and later watched surveillance footage that showed Diddy dragging her down a hallway. That footage is now public. Under U.S. law, repeated physical assault, especially in a domestic relationship, qualifies as felony battery and could lead to years in prison. 3. Sexual coercion and drug-fueled exploitation. One of the most disturbing aspects of Cassie's testimony was her description of what Diddy called freak-offs, sex parties often involving multiple strangers, drugs, cameras, and no consent. These events, she said, began when she was 22 and became a regular part of her life. Cassie described being forced to stay awake for days using ecstasy and cocaine, often supplied by Diddy, to perform sex acts with hired escorts, all while Diddy watched and recorded from the corner of the room. At times, he would direct the encounters. In one instance, Daniel Phillip, a male entertainer, testified that Diddy pleasured himself while watching Cassie interact with him under instruction. This type of coerced performance, especially when facilitated by drugs and blackmail, fits the definition of sex trafficking and forced labor under federal law. 4. Blackmail and the threat of exposure. Cassie told the court that Diddy frequently filmed the freak-offs, often without her consent. When she resisted his demands, he would threaten to release the videos, footage that could destroy her career, humiliate her, and damage her relationships with family and friends. She testified, "I was afraid he would leak the videos. It could ruin everything I worked for, make me look like a slut." At one point, she begged him via text to delete the footage. He claimed he had, but later, she saw the same videos on his laptop, played in public. Under U.S. law, this is not just emotional abuse, it's a crime. The use of explicit media to threaten or coerce someone is considered extortion and sexual blackmail, both of which are prosecutable offenses with serious prison terms. 5. The weapons and threats. Cassie testified that Diddy kept firearms in a safe, once asked her to carry a gun into a club, and frequently armed himself when angry or paranoid. She recalled one moment when he loaded up to go confront Suge Knight. She also described threats made against others, like when he found out she was dating Kid Cudi, and allegedly said he would blow up Cudi's car. Later, she testified that Cudi's car mysteriously exploded in his driveway. The implication is terrifying. Threatening bodily harm, especially using firearms, is considered aggravated assault and domestic terrorism under certain federal statutes. These threats, if proven, could result in long-term incarceration. 6. The rape allegation. Perhaps the most devastating moment of her testimony came when Cassie described an incident in 2018. After their official relationship had ended, Diddy came to her apartment under the guise of reconciliation. That night, she testified, he raped her in her living room. She said she cried, said no, and resisted, but he didn't stop. Afterward, he left without a word. Rape, by any definition, is one of the most serious crimes on the books. The fact that the two had a prior relationship has no bearing. Consent can be revoked at any time. If this allegation is proven, it alone could lead to a decades-long sentence. 7. Emotional and financial abuse. Cassie testified that Diddy controlled every aspect of her life, not just physically and sexually, but mentally and financially. He would cut off her access to rent, transportation, and even meals if she didn't comply. He monitored her communications, intercepted her emails, and installed surveillance through his team. This type of systematic control is now recognized in many U.S. states as a form of domestic violence called coercive control. While harder to prosecute on its own, in combination with the other crimes, it shows a sustained pattern of psychological domination. 8. Witness intimidation and cover UPS. Multiple testimonies suggest that Diddy actively worked to cover up his actions. Hotel staff were bribed. Security guards were paid off. People were told not to talk. In one example, after the 2016 hotel incident, Diddy threw a stack of cash at the guard who witnessed the attack and said, "Don't tell anyone." That same guard, Israel Flores, refused the bribe and testified in court. Attempts to silence witnesses are a direct form of obstruction of justice, one of the most aggressively prosecuted federal crimes. 9. The aftermath: addiction, isolation, and survival. Cassie testified that after years of abuse, she began using opioids to numb herself from the trauma. She said she felt emotionally dead, physically destroyed, and utterly ashamed. At one point, she even considered ending her life. She described going days without sleep, recovering from infections caused by the freak-offs, and still being expected to record music and smile in public. She told the jury, "I stayed because I didn't know how to leave, but now I'm here, to do the right thing." Her survival and willingness to testify is a pivotal moment not just for her, but for countless women silenced by fame and fear. 10. Why prison is inevitable. Sean Combs faces a mountain of legal trouble. The charges include sex trafficking, rape, drug distribution, obstruction of justice, assault, coercion, intimidation, and more. These are not isolated claims. They're corroborated by witness testimony, physical evidence, video footage, and a disturbing, years-long pattern of behavior. Even if some charges fall apart, the accumulation is damning. And if convicted on just a fraction of them, Diddy could face a lifetime in federal prison. For years, he was untouchable. Now, justice may finally reach him, because Cassie survived. And Cassie spoke. 11. Cassie's testimony, a turning point in legal history. Cassie Ventura's testimony may not only change the course of Diddy's future, it could reshape how the justice system treats celebrity abuse. Her detailed recollections, stretching over more than a decade, form a timeline of control, trauma, and survival. Legal experts note that few abuse survivors have presented such comprehensive testimony against a celebrity of this magnitude. The emotional clarity and consistency of her story, combined with corroborating evidence, make it one of the strongest cases against a public figure since the #MeToo movement began. Federal prosecutor Maureen Comey, known for her role in the Ghislaine Maxwell case, now leads this prosecution. Her team understands the stakes. This case could establish precedent for future celebrity trafficking prosecutions, especially those involving prolonged coercion, psychological abuse, and media blackmail. 12. Legal definitions and why they matter. Understanding the charges is essential. Under U.S. federal law, sex trafficking, 18 U.S.C. Section 1591 defined as recruiting, harboring, or transporting a person for a commercial sex act through force, fraud, or coercion. Obstruction of justice, 18 U.S.C. Section 1503 interfering with investigations or court proceedings, including bribing witnesses or hiding evidence. Coercion and enticement, 18 U.S.C. Section 2422 persuading or forcing someone to travel for sex acts through manipulation or threats. Drug distribution and administration. Giving someone narcotics without medical justification or consent is a felony. Sexual assault and rape, any non-consensual sexual act, regardless of prior relationship. These definitions are crucial because Cassie's testimony meets multiple thresholds under each statute. If even a portion is corroborated, Diddy could face multiple counts, each carrying separate prison terms. 13. Cassie's path to healing. After escaping the relationship, Cassie began the long road to recovery. She testified that she suffered from PTSD, anxiety, and deep emotional shame. It took her years to accept what had happened and to stop blaming herself. She started therapy, focused on her music and personal growth, and built a new life. Now married with children, Cassie said she feels stronger but still haunted. She stated, "This trial isn't just for me. It's for every woman who was silenced by power." Her decision to testify publicly, knowing the backlash and scrutiny she would face, represents not just courage but leadership. It's a reminder that survival is only part of the battle. Speaking out is another. 14. What happens if he's convicted? If Diddy is found guilty on the most serious charges, he could face decades behind bars. Federal sex trafficking charges carry minimum sentences of 15 years per count. Rape, obstruction, and coercion could each add additional time. But beyond prison time, a conviction would send shockwaves through the music industry. Brands, collaborators, and former allies would have to reckon with their connections to him. His empire, built on music, alcohol, fashion, and media, could crumble. Properties could be seized, contracts voided, and the world would finally see not a mogul, but a criminal. 15. The bigger picture, a warning and a wake-up call. Cassie's case isn't just about one man. It's about systems, about how power, money, and celebrity can shield monstrous behavior. It's about the people who protect abusers, the employees who turn a blind eye, and the media that ignores red flags. This trial forces everyone to look harder, dig deeper, and ask, who else is hiding behind the mask of fame? It also offers hope, that even after years of silence, justice can still come. That one voice, brave and unwavering, can open the floodgates for others to speak. And that the days of invincible power may be over. Thank you for watching this in-depth look at the crimes Cassie Ventura says she survived, and that Diddy will be jailed for. If this video moved you, if these stories matter to you, share it. Comment, subscribe, because silence protects the powerful. But truth changes everything. This is Now in the Spotlight.